Gentlemen, welcome back to the University of Smooth. I'm your host, Nixon the Dark, the internet's leading expert on unattractive behavior. A messy little segment today. The Madonna whore complex. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, even if you don't know what it means. It's actually quite simple. The Madonna whore complex is a tendency for a lot of men to view women as either or. Either highly promiscuous, sexually creative, sexually available, slutty women, or they view them as Madonnas, which is to say they're loyal, they're kind, they're gentle, they're virtuous, they're morally upstanding, and they are every ideal you could possibly think of for all of humanity. It's a disorder when you do not see both of these in the same woman. Part of the reason for that is because every woman is capable of seeing herself as both, because they are both. They have sexual needs and desires, not nearly as intensely as men do, but they do. They are wired for breeding just like men do. Paternity and breeding and procreation is where the Madonna whore complex comes from. There's two fundamental components to paternity. First, the actual act of reproduction. You have to have babies. I know we're struggling with that in our culture worldwide these days, but that's the imperative. That's why there's a sex drive. Second portion of that is exclusivity. So sexual access comes first. This side always comes first. It's very difficult for a lot of men to accept, but this aspect of a woman's personality is first and foremost. It doesn't mean that you treat them as though they are easy to disrespect, but her sexual identity is always first in terms of how you essentially compute. You cannot deny that component of her identity. But for a woman to gain valuable access to a valuable man, she must offer exclusivity. This is generally how commitment works. In fact, marriage was designed to balance out these two twin competing identities that tend to form themselves in every single woman. A woman merits a man's commitment. She does so by being a Madonna. Well, she has to be both, but she gives him all of those other non-sexual qualities that a man wants in a woman. That's the Madonna. So a valuable man who has both, it's a lot easier for him to see a woman in terms of both. Of course, if she gives that sexual availability to someone else, then it's kind of like being banished from the culture. It's against male wiring. It's against the need that men have to ensure identity in their offspring. So exclusivity, which is earned through these Madonna traits, it's always at risk. In fact, that's one of the reasons that marriage as an institution is crumbling, amongst others, is because it's really difficult to maintain both of these. But when it comes to you navigating your life, we understand that inequality is intensely felt amongst you frustrated men. We get it. For some of you, this may seem like a lofty problem to have because you're struggling to have any opportunity whatsoever. We understand that. Having said that, it's important for you to recognize and eliminate unattractive behaviors in your life. It's not like every single one of them adds up to all sorts of value, but if you get rid of them slowly but surely while you build your own value over here, you can create a good solid combination. As to where it goes, I'm not sure, but we're here to focus on an unattractive behavior, which is having and suffering from the Madonna whore complex. So frustrated man who is not experiencing a lot of sexual availability from a woman, he is much more prone to bifurcating these two components of a female identity in his own mind. He starts to think of women as one or the other. He starts to view promiscuous women with contempt because they're not available with him. Of course, you're going to be contemptuous if you're aware that a woman is being promiscuous, but not with you. It's kind of an impulse. At least it's a resentful, jealous impulse like, why not me? This dynamic becomes exacerbated by toxic shame. The dynamic of toxic shame really feeds the Madonna whore complex. When you have toxic shame, as we've mentioned on prior segments, men who tend to suppress their sexual identity, they tend to not signal to the world that they have needs and desires, but they do have needs and desires. So those needs and desires find expression in all sorts of weird ways. Not that porn is weird, but if you're hiding this big, huge, nasty habit from the rest of the world, they may be shocked to find out that this is how you've been meeting, quote unquote, your needs. So if you're suppressing your sexual identity and letting it go underground, you tend to also suppress a woman's sexual identity. The way you do this is through the Madonna portion. You tend to praise women that you believe to be virtuous and kind and loving and loyal. They may not be loving and loyal to you, but that's the image that you have of them, and that's how you interact with them. You interact with them as though they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're kind. They're incapable of sin. They're incapable of all of those things that excite your jealousy response. So when women see that that's how you treat them, they start suppressing too. I'm sure you're aware women are also animals. They have an impulse to breed. They have an impulse to find and participate with sexual partners. But if you have been telling her how lovely she is by praising all of those good asexual qualities, she's going to hide that side of her personality from you. Now, it may feel better for you to not have that personality of hers shoved in your face if she's not being available to you, but she will no doubt take your suggestion that you have contempt for sexuality and hide it from you. She emphatically has a sexual identity that she expresses. As to how much, look, we're not here to accuse all women of being a particular way, but they have an impulse to breed that you must acknowledge and respect. It is not an insult or contemptuous to acknowledge to yourself, if nobody else, that women have sexual urges that they are going to go satisfy. It doesn't mean that if you make your peace with this, they're going to satisfy them with you. But if you do, recognize, acknowledge, and accept that women are both, and that you, if you get rid of your toxic shame, you are both. When you do that, you'll be better calibrated and you'll be, if nothing else, less unattractive. This is critical. We know the value equation, that the bar is like way up here for most men. And a lot of us are going to be down here. A lot of you guys are going to struggle. And it's going to be really, really difficult to get all the way up here. It's a tough, drastically unequal world that you had no choice of being born into. But if you build the value that you're capable of building, value that, as we say, is for you and you get to keep. If you do all of that, then every bit of unattractive behavior that you can eliminate, you will add to the profile that you may represent. And that may increase the probability of availability. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and one last tip, accept that women are like this. Do not complain to women about the fact that this is a dynamic that you struggle with. When you express all of this frustration and or contempt for female sexuality, you are signaling low value. And if you had value on the bubble before this, you are diminishing whatever chances you may have had. Take care.